this is Karen Johnson, and we welcome you to another part of our Proctors History Project. Today we have with us Ed Burke, who has had a very long and important role. The date today is August 12th, 2013, and we're going to ask Ed how he got involved with Proctors.
Well, in the beginning, Dennis hired me to raise the seats in the dress circle so that the safety bars on the end of the balcony were not in people's eyes.
So how did you do that?
Well, we put two pieces of 2x4 under the seat and raised them up.
So on the
And
ground
we
level?
went across the whole balcony.
So it took about 4 inches and that would fix it?
Yep, that's all we needed, but there's nothing else we could do. They didn't want to put down a row of cement. It cost too much. So
That was a theme in the early days. It
Yes.
cost too much, wasn't it?
Right, that was the story. Don't do it because we can't afford it.
So what happened next? Because you're still employed by Proctors
Well,
today in 2013. What happened
The
next?
next thing was up in the front under the stage, they wanted to take out the footlights. So that was another job. But the footlights were set in cement. So we had, and it was a tin plate that went across the front of the stage. And we had to disconnect the footlights and take them out, and then take the piece of tin out, and then break the cement up and take that out. And then we got to fill it back in with insulation and put masonite over it.
So there were no more footlights after
Right,
that.
no more footlights. That was the end of the footlights.
So the year now is about,
79.
okay, 1979, and this
Mhm.
was the same year that they had Blackstone at the theater.
Right, that was the first show.
So you
And
were
we had to
getting
get ready for the first show.
What other things had to be fixed?
Well, the vacuum cleaner, we had a big vacuum cleaner down in the basement. And the vacuum cleaner was all the way up to the balcony and down into the basement. And we had hoses that would go from the stops
This is like
where it was.
centralized
Right.
vacuum cleaner.
Right, it was a real big machine. And that wouldn't work. So we had to get vacuums to vacuum the aisles. But the carpet was so bad that all the dirt was coming up from underneath the carpets. And that was ruining the carpet sweepers because they couldn't take all that dirt that would pile up in there. Had to keep changing the bags. So they finally decided they were going to get rid of the carpet. And that was a big expense. But we had to take the carpet out.
We is who?
The maintenance people, there was 3 of us then.
Okay.
And we had to take all the carpet up, down the aisles. We had to take all the seats out on the right-hand side and the left-hand side in the loge. We had to take them seats out, put them on the stage, and then take all that carpet up. And that carpet went out into the dumpster.
Must have been a
Oh.
big bill to throw it away.
It was dirty.
Then they got Mohasco to give them some new carpet or give it to them at a really good price.
Well, between Call Company and Molasco, they arranged a deal, and they got new carpet. And we had the guys come in and put the carpet down. We didn't have anything to do with putting the carpet in.
And
just
it
taking
lasted
it out.
until about 2004.
Somewhere in there.
Well, wait a minute, 2007 when we redid the theater,
Right, well,
maybe.
that was just the roof part there that they went into. That was another problem, was the roof leaked.
Where did it leak?
Oh, up in the dome, over on the left-hand side, all down into the box seats, and over there by the organ. So we had to go up in the attic space and put plastic down to keep the water off the organ parts.
Because you couldn't afford to fix
Of course,
it.
they couldn't afford to fix the roof. It was all you know, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, but they never did it. They had to wait. And then finally they come and they fix the roof. And then
I think
we
they
were,
got some grants to do it. I mean,
yes, oh yeah, it was all,
the city was helping them some with money, but then they
Right.
got historic preservation grants.
right.
But they didn't come that fast.
No, it wasn't that fast. It took quite a while. And then we had other troubles downstairs with the boilers. We had 3 big boilers downstairs. And one of the boilers was going to be put on gas. And they kept putting that off and putting that off until finally, when they decided to put in the canal, they put the gas in. And they had a great big tank downstairs, a meter for the gas. And then it went under the canal and out into State Street, into Smith Street, rather.
Now Stratton Plaza.
Right.
So they had gas, and now the one furnace
one
was
boiler
converted?
was converted to gas. The other 2 boilers were oil. And the oil was down in the back by the back doors where you go out into the left-hand side of the theater. And that's where the tank was back there, where they used to fill it up.
So they were using both gas and
And
oil
oil,
at one
right.
time. And you and the small maintenance crew were keeping all this together?
Oh, yeah, we kept that going, kept the boilers going.
And they had a funny kind of air conditioning system.
Well, the air conditioning system, they used to bring in ice, these big blocks of ice, and put them downstairs in the air shaft. And then they would open at the top, they would open the vents. And they had a great big blower down there, a big room blower with a great big fan that would blow the cold air from the ice up into the, under the theater, up into the theater.
And if people notice under the seats, there
There's
are
domes.
holes, and they have a little cover on them.
Right.
And sometimes when you sat there, if they were using the ice method, it was mighty chilly.
It was cold. And then all that air would go up to the top. And up in the top, under the projection booth, out in front of the projection booth, there was another air shaft that would take the air up there. There was a great big machine up there, just like was in the basement. It was up there, we used to blow the air down the air shaft all around the side of the theater and then back down again. And they would use it again.
Now that happened
It was
until
a
the
carrier.
early 2000s, right?
It was a carrier system from Syracuse.
Yeah, I took a picture of it once, and
They
I don't
had-
know where it is, but
They had the guys from Syracuse come out and look at the machine. And before this, they used to sprinkle water into the air that was blown from under the theater, from the Cowhorn Creek.
oh, tell us about the Cowhorn Creek.
Well, the Cowhorn Creek runs under the theater and under the lottery building.
So when you say that, but how, what does it look like? What kind of?
It's just a big brown tube of bricks. And it runs under the stage and down under the theater and out the side, under the lottery building, and runs all the way down to the river.
Now that
To the
Cowhorn
Mohawk.
Creek, if I can put a little context, is actually a drainage system for the city of Schenectady that comes from Central Park
Right.
all the way down here.
All the way down, there's a big tunnel that runs all the way up there.
And so Proctors is host to it at a certain
Yes.
point. Now, could you tell if there was water in it when you were in the basement?
Oh, you could hear the water. Because there was one hole over on the side there where the pipe went down, and they took the pipe out. And you could hear the water running.
Kind of creepy, hey?
Well, when you get down under the theater, there was nothing there, but it's just concrete stanchions and stuff.
Most people don't know that underneath the aisles there are
There's
what do you call them?
there's
Plenum?
tunnels
Tunnels.
that run up, but they're short. You have to bend down or crawl.
And what were those used for?
That's how they run the wires up to the back of the theater.
Okay. So if a show came in, that's what they
They
did?
would put the wires down from the stage underneath and come all the way down the aisles and up. But now they put them on top of the aisles and they tape them down alongside the seats.
They don't want to bend over and crawl
No.
through, hey?
Nobody wants to go down there.
Including you and me.
Well, been down here many times.
So how were the dressing rooms at that point?
Well, the dressing rooms were up in the back along Smith Street. And they were all old. They had tin tables. There was a table made of 2x4s, and on top of that was tin. And then they had lights. And that's the way it was.
And did the plumbing work in? I mean,
Well,
a lot of them
the
had.
sinks were in the corners. And a lot of the sinks, we couldn't get faucets. We had to change the faucets. And we couldn't get faucets to fit the sinks. And that was a problem. And then we had showers, and we couldn't get the ends for the showers. We had to use wrenches to turn the showers.
So if an actor came, they had to make an appointment for you to bring your wrenches?
No, we had wrenches that were put up there. We put the wrenches in, and we screwed a hole in there and threaded it, and then put the screws in to hold the wrench on there.
And the whole time, what did management tell you about all these problems?
This is all going to be fixed. We're going to fix this.
And we don't have enough money right now to
But
buy
right now,
things.
we don't have any money to do that. But when we have a couple of good shows, we'll be able to do a few things. And the dressing rooms, all the dressing rooms had a name. One was Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, Albany, Yonkers, West Point, all names like that, because the actors in them days, a lot of them couldn't read and write, but they knew the letters that were in Syracuse and Buffalo, and that's how they could tell what dressing room they were
And
in.
those were all stops on the vaudeville tour
Right.
that Mr. Proctor had.
Right, and that's how they used them.
Pretty
And that
interesting.
was, but then they had, up there was all the doors were all steel doors. And they were covered with the tin. And it was tough opening and closing them.
So what did you do?
We didn't do nothing but oil them. So they could, that's all you could do. Just put a little oil on the ends
So-
and
What was your background that got you into all of this?
just, Dennis, I lived next door to Dennis. And Dennis says to me, come over and take a look at this and see if you could fix it. And that's how I come to start it. And from then it just leaded one thing into the other.
And
Mm-hmm.
so that was 79, so we're quite a few years into
Oh,
this
yes.
relationship, aren't we?
Yes,
And you're still here.
right, I'm still here. Only part-time, no?
Yep, but
But,
the same suspenders all year.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Regular
And
things.
then there was the marquee. That was another problem. Because the marquee was getting rusty in spots.
Now, this was about when?
This
Early
is
on?
about 82, 83. So they wanted to have the marquee painted. So they went and they got a grant through Syracuse University, I think. And they're the ones that drew up the plans of what color paints we would use on it. And we went up to Sherman-Williams and we got all the different paints. There was about 6 or 8 of them. And they told you, we want 2 inches on this side and 2 inches on that side of this color paint. And then this other color paint goes on the top. So we had to paint the whole marquee.
On ladder.
No, we had scaffolding.
Oh, good.
Yes, we had scaffolding. I had gotten aluminum scaffolding from my nephew, who worked for a bakery company, and they were going out of business. So he had a whole section, 3-4 sections of scaffolding. He says, "Do you want it?" I said, "Yeah, sure."
Being a scrounge, right?
So I took the scaffolding and we put it up down there, and that's how we painted the marquee. When we got finished with it, we put the aluminum scaffolding inside the lobby there. And at night, the doors were locked and everything. We take it out in the morning. But somebody left the door open one night, and somebody came in with a saw, cut the scaffolding up, and took it all. And they left us with 2 pieces of scaffolding with 2 wheels. And they took
That
all
was
the rest
rotten.
of it.
Now, were you involved with the time that the person stole all the chairs out of the theater?
Yes.
Did you know that? Tell me about that.
We took all the chairs out of the loge on the right and the left side. We took all the chairs up and put them on the stage because we're going to take the carpet out. So that was fine. They were up there. And one afternoon, somebody came with a tractor trailer, pulled up on Smith Street and says, "Come in," says to the guys, "We're here to pick up the chairs." "What chairs?" "Oh, the chairs that were taken out." Okay, so they loaded all the chairs, which was a lot of chairs. It was maybe 20, 25 rows from each side. They loaded them into the tractor trailer. The guy signed a sheet for them and said, "Here, this is what we took." And they left. So the guy brought the sheet upstairs. And they took the sheet upstairs, and the next thing you know, somebody else came and said, "We come to pick up the chairs." And it was Davies from down in Albany. He says, "We come to pick up the chairs." And they say, "What chairs?" "The chairs you took out. Got to be reupholstered." "We don't have no chairs." So they said, "Well, we got an order here to pick up chairs." And so then trouble started. So they had to call the Schenectady police, and they came over and started checking. But nothing ever came of it. They were
Never
gone.
found.
Never
Because
found them.
People may remember that for many years there were straight chairs
They-
after that.
there
They
used
did
to
not
be-
replace
There
the
used to be
theater.
chairs there. But when they put the soundboard in the back of the theater, those 3 rows that came out of there were put over on one side, and then they bought chairs for the other side.
So they're regular theater
They're
seats
regular
today.
theater seats.
That happened in the big expansion
Yes,
effort.
that was a...
So you've probably fixed every lock in this building, haven't you, and every door?
Quite a few of them well, they've all been changed. All the locks have been changed now.
Well, that's good. After the theft, it's good to announce to the public that we've changed all our locks.
Oh, yes. All the locks have been changed, and a lot of new doors have been put in because they moved. When they reorganized, they took all the dressing rooms and took them down. And then they put the dressing rooms further into the theater. So it's all different now.
I know when I first came to work here, I had a fistful of keys.
Right.
Now not everybody has them, but there's a master key that pretty
Right,
much
that
covers
fits
everything.
everything. Yes.
And they're also controlling, which is a smart
Well, the trouble was with the dressing rooms. All the dressing rooms would lock. And we had keys. We had 5 keys for each dressing room. And they used to give these to the performers, and they would lose them. When the show was over, the guy that was in charge was supposed to collect the keys, but they never did. So we'd have to get 5 more made. And after a while, it gets a little expensive.
Right.
Of course, you had to go down to Wolf Lock, and with the 1 key you had left, and get 5 made.
So now security is really provided by the outside door,
Right.
and that's it. We don't lock the dressing rooms
Well,
anymore.
some of them do. Some of them have locks on them.
Okay.
But somebody else is responsible for them.
So did you have a lot to do with, after the boilers? I mean, now we're on a totally different
Now
heating
it's
system.
different thing. They built a building in the back after they took out the canal. In the reflecting pool they had in the back, they built a building there to supply the heat, and each in the call company, they have their own air conditioner. The theater has its own air conditioner up in the dome. So that's altogether separate.
A lot has changed,
Oh.
hasn't it?
It's all changed.
But there's still stuff to fix.
Oh, there's always stuff to fix when you have everybody coming in, people come in, and a lot of people don't treat the walls and different things, especially the bathrooms. They're always throwing stuff in the toilet. I don't know where they think it goes, but all
As a
kinds of
person-
things are being thrown into the toilet. You can't believe the stuff that you have to pull out. And a lot of it they try to flush down. It'll go in a little bit, but it won't go all the way. You have to take and get a snake and go in there and take them out. And you got underwear, dresses, pair of pants. You pull these things out and you say, who threw their pants in here? How's somebody going to throw their pants in there? How'd they get out of here?
Very interesting. And you're the one that has to make it right.
And
Well, sometimes.
well, most of the time. Then sometimes you have to go downstairs and open a pipe up to get these things out, because you can't get them. The pipe up there is only, what, 4 inches. And down in the basement, it's 8 inches. So you got a chance if you can take the pipe apart downstairs in one of the openings.
So you've pretty well perfected
Oh, yes, we have
fixing
it
that, but you'd like to
perfected.
tell the public to cut it out?
Oh, gee. I'd like to put a sign up, but what are you going to put up?
Yeah, because it's hard to know what to say.
And everybody uses them. So, yeah, just stuck.
Right. Well, we have a lot more bathrooms today than we had in the
We
beginning.
certainly do.
Like, do you remember how many bathrooms there were in the beginning? Well, there were 2 bathrooms, but
Well, no, there was only the bathrooms in the theater. There was the men's room and ladies' room downstairs, and the men's room and ladies' room upstairs. That's all there was. But now we got the 4 bathrooms in the theater. We got 2 bathrooms in the arcade. We got 2 bathrooms in the GE theater. And then you got
lot.
all the dressing rooms.
so what would you say in 2013 are the biggest problems that we're having keeping up the building?
Oh, the biggest problem is people not caring. They just come in and they bang the walls. Like in the corners, if you notice when you walk in the theater, in some of the corners, they're all banged out from people hitting them. Not only the public, but the employees themselves.
And the shows?
Oh, yes, everybody gives a bang to a piece, knocks a piece off, and that all has to be fixed.
And you're part of the crew that learned how to fix the scagliola?
Right.
So tell us about, first of
Oh.
all, what's scagliola and
Well,
how do you fix it?
scagliola is a plasterous material that you mix, and as you mix it, it gets hot. And you can only mix a little at a time. And when you do these big pieces, like we have pieces that are on the side of the wall, and they're like 20 by 26 or 28, and they have to be done out on a table. And you have to mix it in a big bucket. And what you do is you mix a big bucket, 5 gallons. You mix that up, and you take and you put that down on a Formica table. Then you take burlap, and you put burlap down on top of it. And then you mix another 5, and you put that on top of that. And then you wait until that hardens. And that hardens pretty quick because it's hot. And you got to wait till it cools. When it cools, you cut the burlap around it out, and you have a piece of plaster that's that size. And that comes out and that fits right into the wall. But now, once you get it in, it's got to be finished. And you have to French polish it. And that's done with shellac. And you have to mix the shellac, and you have to make these typons of wool in cloth. And you put the shellac on it, and you rub the shellac into this surface. And it takes, to do one of the panels, it would probably take you about 4 to 6 hours.
A lot of hand work at the end.
You got to keep
And then you
going.
shellac and you sand
You
or
got
something?
You got to keep shellacking. And then when you get it all done, you got to rub it with oil. And then you let it set for a while, and then you got to wash it down. And then you let it dry, and then you French polish it with shellac. And this makes it shine. It looks like marble.
So did you put the marbleizing in it as well when you made
Oh, yeah,
these?
when you make it, when you put the second put of hydrocal into the top of the table where you got the burlap. The burlap is what holds it all together. Mm-hmm. Then what you run lines in it, and you take black powder, and you put the black powder in these lines, and then you wipe it off. And then, when it sets, you got to wash that all off. And then it has lines in it like it's marble.
So you get to be a marble artist.
Oh, yes.
But it is interesting because people
But
come in our theater and probably think that all that
Is
we
marble.
have is marble, but
But it's not.
none of it is.
But that's why the problem is when people come down and they have carts and they hit that, break it,
it's brittle and
you're in trouble. So you have to be careful. And people kick it, especially people that sit in a chair that's got a pole here, and they stick their feet into it, and after a while, they wear a hole in it.
So how much repair, I mean, are you working on this just off and on all the time?
Oh, you're always working on it. But right now, we're having trouble finding hydrocal. And that's the stuff we need to make we got to do the patchwork before we can finish polishing.
See, I think it's pretty interesting. When we had a grant to do a lot of major repair and also fixing it up, and they basically trained us how to fix
Yeah,
it.
well, they when we were building the guild room, which used to be in the old Muslim store, where the Key Bank is now. Mm-hmm. Well, when we were building that, they had Vaughton Carney come, and he's a big designer. And he brought his crew from Washington to show us how to do the scagliola. And we were in the theater, and they showed us on poles how to polish it and everything, and how to clean it. And in order to clean a piece of that, there's 13 steps to doing it. You have to wash it down with soap and water first. Then you have to go and you have to fill all the cracks and everything. And that's how you have a little cup, and you just mix so much, and that you put on it. When that's done, it's got to be sanded. And then it's all sanded clear, and then it's washed again, and then you start polishing. And the polishing takes quite a while.
So the public probably has no idea
No
that this
idea
is a
whatsoever.
constant upkeep for the theater.
And then they brought people in that said they knew how to do it, And these people, what they did is they painted the wall, and then they just took dark paint and they just made lines in it, which wasn't any good.
That's
Because you can't shellac and French polish over that. It doesn't work.
right, because you gotta
The
be
paint,
able to
the
go
paint
into
streaks, where when you do the scagliola, it's embedded right into it. So it's
So are there any other things you've worked on that were pretty amazing?
well, the vacuum was a big. That was a big deal. The vacuum, to do that, because we had hoses for upstairs that would go in the balcony. We had a hose that would reach from the first level where you walk in all the way up to the top of the balcony. And it had
And you
a,
got that after you changed the rug? Would that vacuum system work?
no.
Because I
wouldn't
notice
work.
a lot of small vacuums around the theater
Oh yes.
today.
But see, these guys, they take the vacuums and they plug extensions in. And they plug a 50-foot extension in, and then they got a 25-foot cord on the vacuum. That's 75 feet. And by the time the power gets to the vacuum, it's just about making it run. So it burns out the vacuum. So they keep buying vacuums. You tell them, they don't listen.
Well, Mr. Ed, I'm sure you've told people a lot.
Oh,
They
yes.
didn't listen, but
No, they don't
that's
listen.
one of your duties here, you know?
Yes, yeah.
To tell people the right
Yeah,
way to
well.
do things.
Oh, well, that's one of the things that they don't, nobody pays attention.
So you came here in '79. Now, your
Right.
wife was one of the early volunteers, and she had a little group called the Thursday Ladies.
It was the Tuesday ladies.
Excuse me.
Tuesday,
Ladies.
oh, yes. Yeah, it was Tuesday ladies. It was Dennis's mother, Mrs. Madden, Mrs. Peterson, Norma, and I don't know who the other one was.
Well, there's a plaque to them up in the hall.
Right.
And they came in every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday they would come in and they would do mailings at that time.
You get the theme here that everybody was volunteering and trying to do things
Right,
very
everybody was
economically.
jumping in there, and things are working out pretty good.
I think it's been pretty exciting for you to see.
But then we had when they decided to do the arcade, they had to take down all those windows up in the top because they had painted them over blue. So they took them all down. Then we had to put lights up in there in order to shine on the new things that were being
Now,
brought in.
just to be clear what this is, there are skylights in the arcade.
There were,
And we think that when the CETA workers, the manpower workers who came in to fix the theater, or someone has also told me maybe during the war, they
No.
did that. But anyway, they were painted over.
yes, they painted over it a couple of times, not
Which
just
makes
once.
it not too easy to fix.
So they had to take them out and send them to Massachusetts to be steam cleaned. And all that paint had to be taken off.
And now you've got fluorescent or some kind of
Now
lights
they have
behind
lights
them.
up there, big lights that shine on them.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a closed area up there now. They took out the skylights that they had up there. They were taken out.
So it's just the panel, just the
It's just the glass
windows.
there, and then there's a building built over it
to protect them.
to protect it.
Well,
So-
you've been a wonderful steward of Proctors all these years,
Wow.
and I'm sure through a lot of frustration, you've made it a better place.
Well, a little. We got a
A
little
lot,
done.
I'd say.
Well,
And
we
maintain your personality as Mr. Ed, and
oh yes.
everyone knows that you can fix a lot of stuff.
Well, some things, but there are some things we can't fix.
And some things that money has to buy.
Well, money is the main object. If you don't have the money, you can't get it done. And
Well,
that's the way it's been.
that may be a fitting way for us to end our conversation today. And thank you very much for watching our Proctors History Committee Oral History Review with Ed Burke. A great addition to our theater.
Oh, thank you.